Well, Let's Make a Deal was a popular show back in the day. Contestants could go on this game show and maybe go home with the car of their dreams. First of all, the game show host was a very famous guy named Monty Hall. And Monty would come on to the show and he would have 3 doors. And a contestant, that's you, would come on to the show. Monty would give you the chance to choose door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3. Now behind one of those doors, only one, was your dream flash car. Bright red, sports car, very fast, it was awesome. And behind the other 2 doors were zonks. That was the Let's Make a Deal word for something that you don't really want. So you had, looks like a 1 in 3 chance of getting your dream car. So suppose you pick door number 1, and Monty would then do the same thing every week. He would go over to the 2 doors you didn't pick, 2 and 3, and he would open one of them. Let's suppose he opened door number 2, and the door that Monty opened would always have behind it a zonk.
So he knew?
Well, he knows everything, right? He's the game show host. And then Monty looked at you in the face and said, do you like door number 1 or do you want to switch? There's only one thing to switch to. In this case, it's door number 3. Are you gonna stay with your choice or are you gonna make that leap to something different? And very often contestants would stand there agonized, right? So they've got some new information.
So stick or switch?
Stick or switch. Well, a remarkable thing about this problem, simple as it is that it has sparked just endless debate. In the time of the show, I don't recall anybody ever saying there was a dedicated strategy that you should always follow. But in fact, there is a dedicated strategy you should follow. You should pick door number 3. That's the answer. You should switch. You should switch every time, and that will do the best for you over the long run. So there is a 1/3 chance that the car is behind the door you picked initially. That means there must be a 2/3 chance, much greater, twice as big, the car is somewhere else. And since we know that somewhere else cannot be door number 2, because Monty showed us that, it's got to be over here. So this is what you should choose. You should switch. Twice as likely to have the car behind the door that you didn't pick as the door that you did. 2/3 probability to a 1/3 probability. Now if you switch, are you guaranteed to win? Absolutely not. But if you play this game over and over again, on average, you will win 2/3 of the time. So switch is your strategy and you can't beat it.
Any loss is just a short-term bump in the road until you get to the long run and you end up with profits. So in this first graph, you can see it's 100 hours of 5 different card counters' careers. And you can see that most people are in the positive. There's one person in the negative. One guy's basically even. Oh, I'm basically even after 100 hours. And you know, there's some randomness in 100 hours of 5 different players. In the second graph, it's 500 hours of these same 5 card counters' careers. And when you get to 500 hours, you can see everyone is up in the positive. There have been some crazy winning and losing streaks between the 5 players, but everyone is up in the positive. This third graph is after 1,000 hours of these same 5 card counters' careers, and you can see that the 5 people are all converging in the same area of up and to the right, all in the positive. As they generate EV, all the wins and losses rule out. What's left is the math, which is that card counters end up with the casino's money.
Alice and Bob go into the casino to play some roulette with only one objective in mind: win $100. But they both have different strategies and different starting amounts. Bob only has $100 to begin, so he's going to keep it short. He will bet $100 on red once. If he loses, he's done, he lost his 100. And if he wins, he gets $100, red pays 1-1. So he walks away because he hit his goal, he's done. Alice, on the other hand, comes in with $10,000, but she's only going to bet $1 on red over and over until she's either up $100 or she loses everything. She won't stop until one of those happens. And remember, red only pays out whatever you bet. So she needs 100 more wins than losses before everything is gone. And note, there are 18 out of 38 spots that are red. So that's roughly a 47.4% chance any individual spin lands red. Okay, now the question is, who has the better chance of walking out of this casino having made $100? And before you attempt to prove this on your own, just note the proof itself is not obvious or meant for a video like this, but I will provide a link below for more detail. Okay, here we go. Since there are 18 out of 38 spots that are red, that means Bob simply has a roughly 47.4% chance of getting his $100 and a 52.6% chance of losing everything. He's only doing one bet, so the math is easy. Alice, on the other hand, ready for this, has a 0.00265% chance of winning that 100. As in, it is almost certain she's losing all 10,000 before she makes just 100. If you didn't get that, it's okay, you got one more try, because here comes the richest man in the universe, Carlos. He's going to do the exact same thing as Alice. He's going to bet $1 at a time until he wins 100 or loses everything. But he's starting with $100 trillion. So he's just got to get 100 more wins than losses before he gets 100 trillion losses over wins. So what are the odds he walks away reaching his $100 goal? Or how much more likely is he to win compared to Alice? Since, I mean, he's doing the same thing but has more opportunity to win. Well, guess what? He has a 0.00265% chance of winning $100. Again, it is almost certain he will lose 100 trillion before he makes 100. He is no better off than Alice.
How hard is it to act on every single signal that's generated?
Let's set up a scenario where your last 2 or 3 trades were losers. You are watching the market, and the variables you use to indicate that an opportunity exists are now present. Instead of immediately executing the trade, you hesitate. The trade feels very risky. So risky, in fact, that you start questioning whether this is really a signal. As a result, you start gathering information to support why this trade probably won't work. This is information you normally wouldn't consider or pay attention to, and it's certainly not information that's part of your trading methodology. In the meantime, the market is moving. Unfortunately, it is moving away from your original entry point, the point at which you would have gotten into the trade if you hadn't hesitated. Now you are conflicted because you still want to get in. The thought of missing a winning trade is painful. At the same time, as the market moves away from your entry point, the dollar value of the risk to participate increases. The tug-of-war inside your mind intensifies. You don't want to miss out, but you don't want to get whipsawed either. In the end, you do nothing because you are paralyzed by the conflict. You justify your state of immobility by telling yourself that it's just too risky to chase the market, while you agonize over every tick the market moves in the direction of what would have been a nice winning trade. If this scenario sounds familiar, I want you to ask yourself whether, at the moment you hesitated, you were perceiving what the market was making available, or perceiving what was in your mind reflected back to you. The market gave you a signal, but you didn't perceive the signal from an objective or positive perspective. You didn't see it as an opportunity to experience the positive feeling you would get from winning or making money. But that's exactly what the market was making available to you. Think about this for a moment. If I changed the scenario so that your last 2 or 3 trades were winners instead of losers, would you have perceived the signal any differently?
This is what blew my mind. In April of 2019, I took a technical position on XRP because of a breakout from a standard line of resistance that's been there for, I don't know, a few months or so. And so I got in on that action, and then the price didn't do what I expected it to, and it started to go down a little bit. And so I decided to learn, what is XRP? Is this something that's fundamentally sound for moving forward in the blockchain world and decentralized ledger technology? And it didn't take long to get a fairly strong grasp as to how deeply implemented the XRP ledger is globally, even at this point. So I felt very confident by sticking with this cryptocurrency, and I decided that this will be a good crypto asset to accumulate and compound through successful trades. That is when the first version of Point Break protocol was conceived. And this was using the 4-hour chart, and basically through the Super Guppy indicator, which is a series of moving averages, I was able to turn the chart into an ocean of price action, where everything has a fluid dynamics, and it made it for a fairly predictable view as to what price is going to do. And after a fair amount of back testing, I found that my trades were 73% successful, which was more than enough to be profitable, of course. Casinos typically only have an edge of 1.5%, and even just with that 1.5% advantage, the host always wins in the end. Why? Because many sample sizes, many events. So I knew, conceptually, all I need to do is I just need to take every single signal, and I'm victorious. That's it. It's not hard. So I thought. I even committed myself to one of my best friends. I said, hey, I'm gonna take every single signal, okay? And I want you to keep me accountable. And so I was excited, and I set off into this new venture. In May of 2019, XRP shot up over 40 cents. Prior to that, it was always around 32. And it was go time. Okay, I thought, let's do this. So my first sell signal came in. I sold. There was a false signal. I took a loss. Bought back in at a loss. I'm like, okay, we got the buy signal, let's do it. And then a sell signal came in again at a loss. I'm like, okay, that's fine. We got 3 in a row wrong on back testing. This is normal. The next signal came in. Registered another loss. And then the next one came in. And another loss. And then the next one came in. Another loss. All of a sudden I've had 5 losses in a row, which has never happened in the years prior of the back test. So this was just unfathomable. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, it's almost as if the market is intentionally targeting my actions and then contradicting them. Very bizarre. That's when I saw an article saying that Ripple has now signed on at least 50% of all of the banks in India. I remember thinking to myself, what am I doing? Why am I trading this asset? All I need to do is buy and hold. And it's a sure win. Well, it's close to a sure win as you can get in investing anyway. And so I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'm just going to buy the next dip. There was a sell signal, and then there was a dip. There was not a buy signal on this dip, but I bought that dip anyway. And that was the one moment when XRP continued to go down by about 35%. And had I just taken that one sell signal and waited for that next buy signal, I would have made all my losses back and then some. Incredible timing. So in October of 2020, I was then all in with XRP on a buy signal. And that buy signal was an accurate one. And that is when XRP shot up to over 60 cents in December. This was just prior to the solo or the flare snapshot. And it was looking quite promising. I was convinced that this was probably the moonshot. And, let's get this party started. Now, Point Break generated a sell signal prior to the snapshot, which was December 12th. And my thinking, my rationale was, okay, well, there's a sell signal. I'm going to sell after the snapshot because I want to make sure the snapshot registers my XRP so I can get my Flare tokens in the future. That was the idea, but by the time that the snapshot was taken, XRP was already down to 48 cents, and I thought to myself, oh, well, it's already down to 48 cents. That's probably going to be support, so why even sell now? I'm just going to hold. Within a week, XRP was slapped, well, yeah, by the SEC, slapped by the SEC with a lawsuit against Ripple. And this lawsuit caused the price to tumble down to 17 cents. My buy signal was engaged around the 24-cent mark, but I didn't sell. I thought that I knew better, and at this point I thought I knew to take every signal. I thought I learned that lesson. But I had a way to justify not to take the signal. So I missed out on that one. That's okay. Price continued to just kind of hover around the 27 cent, 29 cent area, and after about 2 or 3 months, XRP started to find some traction and get into the 40 cent area again, 48 cents, come back down. And this is when I decided, okay, let's commit to these signals. Let's just point break every signal all throughout 2021, and let's see what happens. So, I believe it was April, XRP started to shoot quite high. It went up to about $1.96. My sell signal came in at $1.11, and I was anticipating the bounce with resistance going up to about $1.40. And that's what did happen. It went to $1.40. I sold 100% position. I was up over into $150,000 USDC. And XRP continued to rise. Even though I was out of my position, it kept on going to $1.55, $1.60, $1.70. And I remember thinking, well, you know, if this is it, then this is it. But I'm going to stay with the signal, and I'm going to ride this one out. Within weeks, price started to curl over again. I waited for the buy signal to come in, which I do believe was in June or July. And then I was up to about almost 300,000 XRP. And on that buy signal, within 2 weeks, a sell signal was generated, and I was able to sell on average at $1.20. At this point, I now have 330,000 USDC. I was waiting for another buy signal. That buy signal did not come again until December 24th. And this buy signal, it was a clear signal, and I acted faithfully on it. I maxed out my loan of $100,000, and I bought about 100,000 or so XRP, just over, and I came up to 444,000 XRP. And so I held that, even though it started to curl over, and it wasn't looking very promising. I wasn't using stop losses. I was simply waiting for the next sell signal, which did come in April. April, first week, second week, the sell signal was minted, and it was at a 15% loss. 78 cents was XRP at the time. And I remember thinking to myself, well, you know, there's been 2 buy signals in a row that hasn't really shown any confidence. Maybe Point Break's broken, because all of the analysis that I've seen other people do on XRP at this point, the people who I respect on YouTube, they're saying it's still a bullish structure. We're still above main support, and there's still an intact uptrend. So you know what? I'm not going to sell, because also it's going to probably get a settlement at any time here, and XRP is going to be the one regulated, fully clear coin in the world for institutions to just pour liquidity into. XRP dipped down to 29 cents. And it partially liquidated my position. Instantly, about 20% of my XRP in my collateral wallet was liquidated into US dollars and instantly applied towards my loan. And so that was about 94,000 XRP that was liquidated in that moment.
A lot of traders, unless they learn the mindset and the skills of discipline, then at some point they're going to get caught up in the markets and they'll go and make those mistakes which cost them too much, and they'll give that money back to the market. So yes, on the other side of the trade there are the institutions, but they don't actually need to be pushing the markets around in order to stop everybody out. Don't get me wrong, they do at times, they will do that if they can, but that's not what makes traders fail. What makes traders fail is themselves.
When a protocol has been statistically verified and proven with a high number of events, that is when every single signal must be acted upon. And if a person is able to do that, then the profits will consistently come into the portfolio effortlessly, consistently, when looking at a zoomed out perspective. If a person needs to be right and they cannot lose, then they will not be successful. The only way that it is possible to act on every single signal is by understanding the fundamental truth. And the truth is, there are going to be losses. There is going to be a random assortment of wins and losses given any string of events when it comes to any protocol that we could ever adopt. The question becomes, how profitable is this protocol? And do I have the character and the mindset to remain faithful to act on every single signal, no matter what the news is telling me, no matter what my friends are telling me, and no matter what my mind is trying to tell me? Can I stay faithful? Because if a person is able to stay faithful to a mathematical edge that will work out in their favor, then that's when the profits are awarded to that individual. About a month ago, I started a new protocol. I was watching a sermon on the kingdom, living in the kingdom here and now. And a vision came into my imagination of a new protocol that I've been working on for the last few months or so. And the final pieces, the final calibrations came into my imagination, and I felt a surge of inspiration right away. So I put it together and I back tested, going over about 110 different trading events over 2 different years. The average win rate was 85% using a 9-hour chart and signaling roughly 55 to 59 signals per year. This was by far the most powerful protocol I have ever come across. And it's worth noting that this protocol did not come into my imagination until I came to the realization that I want to give 20% of my yield from my trades throughout the week. The top 20%. The moment that I came to that realization, boom, this gift came into my imagination that looks to be one of the best, most profitable, most accurate protocols I've ever come across. I'll give more of the details on this protocol later down the video series, but for now, I would just like to highlight the importance of taking every single signal. Halfway through, just a couple weeks into this experiment, I found myself on a losing streak. I was taking trades that were outside of the parameters of GTP, and I was experimenting with different things that were not statistically verified. So now I was acting within an event that did not have any proven mathematical edge, and I was basically gambling. I was no longer a professional trader. I was gambling in the hopes of trying to recover funds, known as revenge trading. I was starting to feel the fear. After 3 trades and 3 losses in a row that were not well disciplined, I felt that same nervousness that was building up back when I had my losing streak years ago. And I felt like I wanted to stop. I felt like, oh, okay, maybe we should at least maybe scale down and, maybe not risk so much. But then I realized, no, I have this amount that I knew was a safe level to play with and to experiment with. I need to keep the same parameters if I'm going to have profits that are mathematically in my favor. So I pushed through and I just took the next signal. The next signal on GTP was a long signal. And that particular trade had the proper setup. I scaled in methodically, scientifically, and then as price action moved in my expected direction, I was able to move up my stop loss to turn that into a gain lock, so that no matter what, it's going to be a winning trade, even if price reverses completely. And I was able to successfully move up this gain lock level 3 times before it was triggered, yielding me a very nice profit and taking the majority of the entire move as a chunk of my reward. Overall, GTP has yielded $6,360 in 4 weeks, and 4 out of 5 signals were profitable and well executed. The losses that were in there were silly, and they were undisciplined at times, but this shows and verifies the mathematics behind GTP, but more importantly, it showed me how important it is to take every single signal, because I wanted to quit. I felt it. But this time I persevered because I was given the character and the belief set that allowed me to persevere. It's ourselves that causes us to fail in the markets. It's fear and it's greed. And then the question becomes, how do we get around these things? How do we develop an attitude and a belief set that empowers us with the ability to actually stay faithful to every single signal? And that will be the subject of the next lesson: the winning attitude.